right. Welcome into another NBA edition of Cerberus Sports Talk. Again, my esteemed guests, Eric and Cam. How you guys doing right now?
Chilling, man. Checking this game out.
Yes, sir. Doing great.
Yeah, I know I took you guys away from a hot one, everything like that. So I appreciate your guys' time. Looks like Eric just pulled over on the side of the road and gave us what he's doing there, but I appreciate you guys. Let's just get it started. Keep it short and sweet so you guys can get back to the game here. Gregg Popovich, ties for the first all-time with Nelson as far as wins for a coach. Pretty extravagant career that he's had. Maybe talk about maybe some of his best moments in your eyes, and what do you think of his career?
First off, I have a different level of appreciation for Gregg Popovich, for what he stands for, like as an overall life teacher, more so than the game of basketball. I feel like he's never been a judgmental guy, and though players don't always have their best careers in Spurs uniform, of course the greats, the Timmys, the Manus, Tony Parkers, but there's a lot of players that go within that system and they may not thrive there, but the skills that they learn there, it takes them further even after if they play for another team. So my level of appreciation for him is great. I personally think I would rank him second amongst the coaches that I've seen to Phil Jackson.
Same. He's definitely up there. I think I like his teaching methods. He's pretty stern. He gets straight to the point, but he's genuine though. He's not a coach that's gonna try to do it his way or no way. He even adjusted to when LaMarcus Aldridge got to the Spurs. He adjusted to that play style because it was more of system pass screen cut with the Spurs. Aldridge is a ISO player on the block, so I like how he adapted to the game and made adjustments. And I feel like he's another one of those coaches that once you play for him and you leave and go somewhere else, your game gets better. So he's one of those coaches I think just teaches you those attributes or helps you possess those attributes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something to be said. It would be first all time. They lost last night. He could have been, standing first alone, but not only having that longevity and having the success at all levels and not only with just the NBA and then, international basketball, it's just a testament to the game. And one of the guys that had brought it to the next level. So let's move it on to the next one right here. Blazing Hot Suns. They can't seem to lose no matter who or is not in the lineup. They already clinched a playoff spot. First team to do so with like a month and a half left in the season. So they could just put it on cruise control if they wanted to. How does this team continue to win? Like they just, without CP3, and all that kind of, how do they continue to win basketball games?
I think they just had that instilled confidence now. Like they made it to the finals. I think they really feel like no one can beat them. Yeah, we've already talked about how they're a complete team, but I think it's just mainly confidence, man. And then with them winning, why CP3 isn't in, that's just boosting it even more. So I mean, at this point, of course I have Brooklyn as my favorite, but with the injuries and everything, it's just kind of shaky. Phoenix, man, only people I can see them giving a run for their money is the Warriors.
Which they get a guy back, right? They get Draymond back mid this month.
Yes.
So pretty soon.
Yeah.
And Wiseman could potentially come back at the same time. So that's big.
That's very big.
So what do you think, Chosen? How are they winning games in your eyes, and who's really stepping up to the table in the absence of some of their big hitters?
Yeah, I agree with Cam. First up is confidence. Second, they have an identity established. Like everyone knows what they're supposed to do. And once you get a combination of that, I mean, they're coming off a finals appearance. Once you get a combination of all of that, and it's also a weird shuffle in the NBA right now of other teams trying to find their identity. Almost every other team is trying to find their identity right now, if you think about it. So I think a combination of all of those factors just got them far ahead of anybody right now. I feel like if everybody had to play a 7-game series right now, they'd beat anybody at this moment. We'll see how it goes.
That's for sure.
Yeah, they're going to be the number 1 seed right now, which would mean they would play the 8th seed. They would play the winner of one of the play-in games, and so that would be right now Minnesota, the Clippers, New Orleans, or the Lakers there. So some interesting teams there, but it doesn't seem like they could lose at this point, until we get further into the playoffs. So something to check on there, and we'll see how they handle this. Sometimes teams that get out to such a good lead, especially in certain sports, get complacent down the stretch because they're not playing meaningful games to move up and down in the seeding. And then when it comes to playoff time, they have to turn it on like a light switch, and those other teams that have been grinding are already in playoff mode. And so it had happened for my Kings when the 8 seed beat the 1 seed, and it doesn't happen much in basketball, but that's always something to look out for.
Yep.
Sure.
Let me say, I feel like Milwaukee also has their identity established. I don't want to discredit Milwaukee, but yeah, we can go to the next topic.
All right, the Westbrook Saga. So he's saying slander and everything like that to his family isn't bothering him. Sometimes fans can get pretty crazy with what they say online. It's easy to be bullish and have your chest out when it's your name and a bunch of numbers next to a Twitter symbol, and that kind of stuff. And some players watch it, some players don't. But I feel like a lot of family members watch that kind of stuff and take it personally. How do you think this has affected him? Do you think if it has at all, and is it just kind of just an off year for him being on a team that he really hasn't thrived in a city where they expect rings every season with LeBron?
Yeah, I feel it's definitely affecting him. I feel like he's been affected since the moment he stepped on the court playing for the Lakers. Like Cam and I always mention the pressure of playing on a team with LeBron James. And then you're in the most competitive and biggest market of basketball has to offer. A combination of that, LA is Russell Westbrook's hometown. I don't think structurally his contract is like anything that will give him the comfort of knowing that he'd be able to stay long term. So with all of that together, man, I don't think there's a player in this world that wouldn't be affected by it. It's just you just have to be a special guy to be able to channel it. And usually the guys that are high skill level players are able to channel it, and other guys get a little more nervous, man. So I don't know. I feel like he's definitely bothered by it, but Westbrook is the type of person I feel like could push through that mentally if he locks in.
I think that actually surprises me about Westbrook, that this is affecting him. I feel like he's one of those guys that's so intense,
right?
To where, like he wouldn't. He really is a player that doesn't care what people say. But at the end of the day, you can only ignore so much. I seen him talking in the interview how this was affecting like what's going on with his kids. They're starting to say Westbrook at school or Westbrook at school. So
Wow.
I think that's starting to kind of just mess with his just his whole persona on the court, man. He just looks drained. Like I've seen him drive to the basket and not even want to like lay it up. He'll kick it out. Like he don't even look to score or look to be aggressive. And it's like, man, it is kind of sad at this point.
Yep.
I think you're just looking at, there's some people say, oh, hey, man, you're making $44 million. You just need to buck up. But, athletes are people too. And you're looking at, he went from OKC to Houston to Washington. Now, he's just being kicked around left and right. And then, it seems like none of the fan bases want him to be there. He's having a hard time finding an identity since Oklahoma. And it's just, I think it's really tough when you're just kind of floating around in space when you can be great. And so it's just, I think it's kind of tough in that aspect. And, the fact that he is 35 or he's going to be 34.
I think he's 33 right now.
Yeah, so he's going to be 34 soon, and still doesn't have a ring. He's kind of lost in the greats of this era, compared to other people. And for a guy that seems like he has dedicated life. He seems like he wants to be, more ranked amongst basketball fans than he is. And he's been in the shadow of a lot of other players. Is maybe taking exception to this. Like he's seeing his time run out. In the twilight type of his career, and there's really nothing he can do about it at this moment because it's not his team.
A lot of that has to do with what he was saying about his skill level. Like he is on the backside of his career, and Westbrook was just never one of those players that was highly skilled. So he was always all about talent and athleticism. So that's how he got to his spots on the court. And now that that's not there anymore, or other people has caught up to him in athleticism, he doesn't possess the skills to get to where he needs to get. And I think, it's just all coming down at the same time. So it's a struggle for him.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you're looking at the last couple of years, I mean, you're looking at from Houston, he was 27 points a game, then last year 22, and now 18. He's averaging 4 less assists per game, so he's not scoring. He's not finding the passing lanes. And sometimes when players rely solely on athleticism and instead of skill-based players, when that fails, it could be a sharp decline pretty quick. You're looking at the greats in other sports that are able to be smart and intelligent. I'm not saying he's not, but they're able to use their skill set intelligently. Like we talked about a couple episodes ago with Steph Curry as he gets older, his skill set is to shoot the basketball. So when his athleticism starts to wane in the edge of his career, that's his number one skill set. And he's still going to be able to use that, whether it's off the bench or, coming in late, where when you're a pure athletic person, sometimes that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Very true.
So last question on that little quick episode. We're keeping it short and sweet. I like this question here. Cam came up with this one. Ja Morant versus D Rose, and so the way he's playing right now versus Derrick Rose in his prime, how do those players compare, and who would you take on your team if you had to build around one of them?
Yeah, I want to hear you. What you got to say?
I want to hear you first.
All right. I was a prisoner of the moment for a while, and I was saying Ja Morant. I was saying Ja Morant was better than D Rose. Then I was talking to a buddy of mine, man, and I had a different outlook. D Rose prime is better than Ja Morant right now, and I say that because D Rose was carrying that Bulls team, but he was doing it in the midst of everybody's prime. So this is like 09, 010, I believe, right?
That's a good point.
So he was like doing this when KD was killing, Westbrook was killing, John Wall was killing, LeBron was in his prime, Kobe was still a problem, Carmelo was still a problem. Like that NBA, that I think that was right after the lockout season. So people came back rested, they was crisp, they was polished, everybody was ready to go. And D Rose, the Celtics was a problem. Like you had veterans and young guys, that was a problem. I feel like in today's game, it's more veterans that's actually a problem. But like he was like killing between all of them. Like he was like hands down just doing whatever he wanted. And he took the Bulls to the Eastern Conference Finals, man, against a super team, Miami Heat. So that's why I was like, okay, you know what? Nah, not yet. If Ja Morant was like going to the Western Conference Finals with the Grizzlies, then it would be more of an argument, I say.
Yeah, a little more time. I can see that. So I'm going to partially disagree. I'm going to say this. I feel like Ja Morant is the better player, like basketball-wise, if we're talking ability and doing everything from shooting at all 3 levels, at the basket, mid-range, three-pointer, ball handling, finishing. Like I think he's leading the league in points per game. Paint points per game.
Yep.
But if you're asking me who I would take Derrick Rose for this reason. Derrick Rose led a team not only with his play, but with his composure. Like, I feel like at any moment you could look at Derrick Rose, you can look at Ja Morant and say he can make a play, but with Derrick Rose, you look at him and say he's going to make the right play. And that is the reason I would take Derrick Rose, but I do feel like Ja Morant is a better player. But I want to give it more time too, like Cam said. We got to see a real good playoff run because D Rose went against the best super team ever, man. The best super team as far as like their impact on the game at that time. Like by the time Golden State's Big Three came along, it was a little further and we were used to teams joining. But when we joined together, it was ridiculous. It didn't make sense.
Come on, bro.
D-Wade,
LeBron, and Bosh. And the role players was perfect too.
Facts. And then you got, how old was D Rose? His MVP season, 21, somewhere around
22, 21, 22.
22-year-old kid going against those guys,
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree with you based on the stats, and I don't break down film like you, but Morant has more points per game, more rebounds per game. He's a better 3-point shooter. He's a better free throw shooter, barely below in assist. And this is both their third year. You know, obviously, I don't know if Morant will win an MVP this year like Rose did. But as far as the trajectory and how it goes, you're basing off of stuff that has already happened, and Morant is still finishing the season. Now, if Morant takes the Grizzlies to the Western Finals,
if he goes to then I'll be like, okay, you know,
something different. But based on the stats so far this year, Morant is more developed as a player at 22 than Rose was.
Yeah, he's really skilled.
Yeah,
and it doesn't seem like he throws his body around as much as Rose does, so he might be able to continue to get better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think Morant is he has a lot more body control, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, D Rose wasn't far off though. I mean, he fell a little bit more. I think he hit the ground more, but D Rose has some body control too. He's doing some crazy stuff, man.
I mean, it's a good question because if it wasn't, then it would be an easy answer for everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's definitely a good question. Well, that's going to do it for us. A little short NBA episode. We're going to have a jam-packed one next week when the Nets are not playing the Sixers. And that way we can get some more content for you guys, come up with some questions. If any fans have any questions, hit us up on Twitter. We'll throw some fan questions in there for you guys. As always, thank you, Cam. Thank you, Eric, for coming on. This is Cerberus Sports Talk. All of our Twitters are in the description, so please follow, like, and subscribe this video. And have a good night, guys.
Yes, sir.
Yep.